Hello, hello. I am back again in the studio today talking about everything you need to bubble glaze your own pottery, so let's get right into it. First, I have a bottle of jet black Amico Velvet Underglaze. This bottle is V361. I have a little bit of Dawn dish soap. I have about a cup of water in a mason jar, a tablespoon, and a reusable straw. So let's get right into it. First, I pre-mixed this underglaze, made sure all of the material was thoroughly mixed together, and I'm gonna add about 1 tablespoon of underglaze to this jar of clean water. And then I'm gonna pop that off to the side. Now I'm gonna add about a tablespoon of Dawn soap to this. You can play around with the measurements for yourself, but one thing I am sure about is that the darker underglazes are gonna work a lot better for this process. I've tried this with lots of different colors. This is actually something that I will do with my high school students. They actually really love to pick out the color of their bubble glaze and do this project. So it is something I would recommend doing with students. And I set it up just like you see it right here when I do it at school. So I put a turntable in one of these little totes, and it kind of contains the mess a little bit. And at school when I do this, you can't see it, but there's a little bit of paper on this table. That is a great idea as well. So we're gonna come back to this jar and really make sure that these materials are incorporated the same way you wanna make sure the materials are incorporated with the bottle of underglaze before you pour it out. Just get in here with this tablespoon and give it a healthy stir. And something I would say about studio materials is something like this tablespoon. Now that I've used it to mix my underglaze, this should be a studio tablespoon. You should not take your rolling pin or your measuring cups or anything like that out of the kitchen and then use them in the studio and then bring them back into the kitchen. Once it becomes an art supply tablespoon, it needs to forever be an art supply tablespoon. So I have this mug. I made this with ceramic standard clay. It's the 105 no talc clay body. I didn't really love this clay, but we're gonna go ahead and bring this piece all the way to the end. So if you've seen some of my other YouTube videos, you've been watching me throw these mugs as I taught you how to use the pottery wheel, and now we've made it all the way to the point where we're gonna be decorating. So when you use the bubble glaze, it will pool a little bit on the inside of your piece. So I'm choosing to bubble glaze this piece upside down so that I don't have any material or water or bubbles that pool on the inside of this. And I'm actually looking for that contrast between a darker outside and a clean white inside. So you're gonna take your straw, you're gonna take your mixture, and it's gonna take you several breaths to be able to blow enough bubbles to get this going. So stay tuned. So I'm going to pause that right there. You can see the tote is a really great idea for kind of containing this mess. A lot of times you need to let the bubbles kind of pop and disappear on their own before you really get in there. And this process can be a little bit hit or miss depending on which materials you use and how you apply them to your surface. So we're gonna have to come back and make a part 2 for how this comes out. But if you stopped by today, thanks so much for being here. Also note that some artists do choose to use this process with glaze, and that's something you can do as well. I just prefer to use underglaze on my pieces that are leather hard and then bisque fire them and then apply a clear glaze to the surface. I find that works best with students as well because they are less likely to smear some of the bubble lines if they're putting a glaze right over an underglaze that hasn't been fired. So actually we're seeing some of this come through. I'm just gonna blow and turn a little bit. Ooh, that's exciting stuff. If you stopped by today, thanks so much for being here. Come back for part 2.